Welcome to Rock the Life. I'm Amy,
I'm Katya.
and today we have something that we haven't had in quite some time, a story with just Katya and I. So we're super excited to share this story with you. It will be a part one of two. So this part is Katya's story, and then love her so much for the second part, she called me. So, and the adventure
And then it's our
ensues.
story, yes.
Yes, yeah. So, who are we talking about, Katya?
Today we're talking about one of the most iconic bands ever from New Jersey, Bon
Hmm.
Jovi. And if we can even, my whole rock and roll life, ever since I can
Hmm.
remember, it's literally been Bon Jovi.
Hmm.
And, if we could just go back in time, I mean, because there's still, I mean, they just had a series on TV come out in the last year, a four-part series
Hmm.
documentary. It was huge.
Hmm.
They are
Hmm.
still so
Hmm.
relevant. They have never stopped. But this time period that we're talking about was after the 80s, because that's when they made it
Hmm.
big. And we were still kind of kids when they came out. Slippery When Wet came out. It was like a massive, massive hit.
Hmm.
And I think that's actually when I remember Bon Jovi. And the big
Hmm.
one for me was the Wanted Dead or Alive video when that came out. It was filmed in different concerts, but one of the concerts was in the Bay Area. And one of the girls I went to high school with was in the video. And I'd just be like, hey, Terry, like she was a girl kind of
I
like
don't
holding the
remember that.
drumstick at the front.
I
And
remember that girl.
yes, yes. And she's
Oh
singing her
my
heart out.
gosh.
And I had met her and I was like, hey, Terry, are by chance, are you the girl in the video?
Is
And
that
she was like,
you?
I am. And then it just kind of even exploded with her knowing Bon Jovi and loving it. And then I was fully into it. Went to one of their
Wow.
concerts. My neighbor took me to the concert and it was like epic. I snuck a camera
Was
in
that
and
New Jersey?
it was when Skid Row opened for them,
Yep, New Jersey. Hmm.
New
Hmm.
Jersey
It
at the
was April
shoreline.
1989. And you know how I know? Because part of, I'll this is your story, and here I go butting in because
No,
I'm so used to
tell
telling
me, because
stories.
this was
I'm
our
like so
merging of
sorry.
lives. Yeah.
My mom worked for Bill Graham's tax attorney, and she got us backstage passes for that show. But it was the day after John got married. I will always know the date of that show because it was the day after John and Dorothea scuttled off to Vegas and got married,
And got
and
married at the
nobody showed
little
up
Graceland Wedding
backstage.
Chapel. Yes, I know that.
Yeah, nobody showed up backstage for our backstage passes. Like we waited there for hours.
So,
And
Amy,
then finally somebody comes and says that.
if I could ever find those photos I took of John Bon Jovi up close and personal with me, I will find those. But those are like way back, like getting a
Yeah.
camera in, and it was crazy. So I was fully like Bon Jovi was possibly one of the biggest bands on the planet at the time in like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
89, 90.
Uh-huh.
And then they
Yeah.
also did something in 1989. Okay, it's a random fact, but it plays into my story. So hear me through this one. In
Okay.
1989, it was August of 89, there was
Mm-hmm.
this concert called the Moscow Music Peace Festival
Yeah.
in Moscow,
Pay-per-view.
Russia. And back then, Russia was totally shut off. Nobody knew anything about
Closed.
it, closed, like hardcore, Cold War, communist.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I found out that the reason why they did the concert was, I believe it was Doc McGee was like in trouble
Mm-hmm.
and he had to do something for like the community. So he organizes this concert in Moscow, Russia with Bon Jovi. Okay, it was the Soviet Union then, but now it's Russia.
Yeah.
But back
Yeah.
then it was the
Yeah.
Soviet Union.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Bon
Yeah.
Jovi played. It was, I have to look up to see who it was. It was
Ozzy was there.
Mott,
Skid Row.
Motley Crue.
Mm-hmm.
Jason
Mm-hmm.
Bonham was there playing. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, we like to think that this concert brought down the wall and opened up. And we no longer had the USSR. And it
Mm-hmm.
was going to be this peaceful, free
Right.
world. And I like to think that, like, and I'd say I think they contributed to it. It was they said
Yeah.
it was something like 100,000 fans came to Moscow's Lubniki Stadium.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
watching it was like probably one of the most incredible things. Okay, and at
Yeah.
this time I am a I'm going from like high school,
Mhm.
going through high school, heading into college, and I am studying Russia and emerging like post-communist democracies at that time that we were thinking that they would be. So I'm fully into politics and rock music, and Bon Jovi's the biggest band ever. Okay,
I
so
have a
that's,
question for you.
oh, go ahead.
I have a question for you. Is Bon Jovi to you as Def Leppard is to me?
Bon
Is that where
Jovi
we are?
is to me what Def Leppard is to you.
That's
Yes.
what I thought. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So now we've got it down.
I was I literally had this poster of John Bon Jovi that's now iconic of him with like his like half bare chest, like, and it was like you'd put it on the back of your
Mm.
door and it was like gigantuan size with the band beneath it. Yes, that was on my door. And I still
I
believe,
will confess, I had John and Richie on my door.
no,
I had that one. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think you
Sorry.
can
Sorry.
still find one of those posters in my parents' house in my old bedroom.
Yeah. The
So it was
garage.
like it was fully like high school girl that loved Bon Jovi. And I felt like I was getting to the game late of Bon Jovi because it had already been out for like years and like being
Yeah.
successful. So now we're talking about 1991.
Mm-hmm.
I'd already gone to the concert, fully crazy for Bon
Mm-hmm.
Jovi. And at this time, John Bon Jovi comes out with the song for Young Guns, Blaze of Glory.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
specifically remember because when I heard the song on the radio, I was like, that's not Richie playing on guitars on this song. I don't hear Dave Bryan in this song. And John had went solo. So it was this real fear that Bon Jovi
Yeah.
was splitting up.
Mm-hmm.
And also in 1991, Richie Sambora came out with a solo album, Stranger in This Town.
Yes.
But
Loved
the
it.
solo album, remember who played on it? It still had Tico Torres
Everybody
and Dave
else.
Bryan, except John. It
Yeah.
was the band
Yeah.
without John.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I was a gigantic Richie Sambora fan. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What more
Okay.
do we say to that?
Right? Okay, so that's there we have background. So how
Yeah.
did this like what happened? Like you're okay, so you're 91, so you've graduated,
Hmm.
you're in college? Why are this was
Kind of,
November.
yeah.
Why are you home?
Hmm. I was home because I was working to save money and to get my
Mm,
visa to go to Russia at this time. And it kept getting pushed back because of all the weirdness that happened with
mm,
traveling and visas way back when you had to mail things and show up to the passport office to get visas. So I was in this weird state of like waiting to go to college in
mhm.
Russia or to go to university and at home. So I was at home. And
Gotcha.
lo and
Okay.
behold, on KSJO, our Bay Area rock station, they said that Richie Sambora was going to be doing a record signing. And of course, I had tickets that night to go see him at the Warfield in San Francisco, but there was a record signing. So another high school friend of mine, it was like, of course, during
Yeah.
the week, so you couldn't come with me.
Mhm. Mhm.
We rushed off to go to this record signing. And I picked up, I think it was like a bouquet of roses. And
You were good at that.
I wrote a thank you note for thanking him for the music and just like how much I appreciated his music. And I put this little note in the roses. And when he went to go sign our stuff, and I had him sign things for other people, it wasn't really for me, which was weird. I should have
Oh.
just been like had my own stuff signed. And I gave him the flowers. And as we were leaving, one of his like PR guys and him was like, "Hey, wait. Are you going to the show tonight?" And we were like, "Yep, going to the show. So excited." They're like, "Okay, at this time, meet us at this store at the Warfield." And I was like, "Okay, I will be there and I will be early."
I'm there. Yeah.
So it was this really surreal, weird feeling because I was
Wow.
such a big
Mhm.
fan, and his
Mhm.
crew that was with him were being like so nice to us. And Dave or Tico weren't there. It was just Richie doing it, promoting
Okay.
Stranger in This Town.
Okay.
Don't remember much in between, but we get to the show at the Warfield. and we stand, we're supposed to stand at our designated time because of course there is no cell phones to text and like
Oh,
to
yeah.
coordinate all
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It was,
Hmm.
hey, at this time be there. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll be there. And we get to go backstage. And we have backstage passes to go before the show and after the show.
Wow.
Like
Roses, man.
it was
Yeah.
it was like beyond anything. So here I am, a teenager, and then we went beforehand and then we went after the show. And after the show is where it kind of all it was wild. It was a party backstage. I can remember like what it looked like backstage at the show. It was a lot of people, a lot
Okay, so
of hmm
yeah. So I'm going to go back just a little bit. When you're
okay,
walking in the door, they meet you at the door and they're like, "Hey, come on in." They give you stickers, right? You got stickers.
stickers.
Okay. And then where do they escort you? How does that work? Do you see anybody through that? Where does this go?
There is a lot of long, beautiful hair
Yeah.
backstage as
Yeah.
we walk in. And it was just kind of welcome. There is an open bar, there's food. And I think I just kind of
Wow.
walked in and not usually one for a lack of
Uh-huh.
words, but I think my mouth kind of hit the floor. And I was
Whole
like,
different
I
thing.
am in rock heaven right now. It
Yeah.
was, it was amazing.
And so
And
this is before our Def Leppard story. This is the first time you're seeing anything this to this magnitude. I mean,
exactly.
it's Richie
This is after
Sambora.
Warrant.
It's
This is after Warrant, um,
right.
after Great White. But
Hmm.
yeah, this is Bon Jovi. This is like the band that I can
Huge.
tell you everything about. I bought magazines
Right,
to read
right.
up about them. I knew
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
liner
yeah,
notes. Like this was my
yeah.
band. So, and but you know what was interesting about this was as soon as I got backstage,
Hmm.
I felt out of place. And
Oh,
we might
okay.
show little pictures of what I was wearing, but I remember I was in like jean shorts, I had my cowboy boots on, and I had like a long sleeve polka dot shirt, my Richie Sambora like hat.
Oh,
It was
hmm.
very, it didn't feel conservative. It felt rock and roll to me at the time. But when I got backstage, I was like, I am not like the other women back here. There was a lot of
I'm wearing
stiletto
way too many
heels,
clothes. Yeah.
short dresses, really skimpy, and there was that real
Mm-hmm.
vibe, that what you see almost from the videos vibe.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was
Okay.
like, oh no, I don't belong here. And I thought I was going to go backstage and talk to Richie Sambora.
Mm. You were just
But
invited to the party. The whole
I was
thing.
invited, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
everyone was talking to Richie. Doc McGee was there, and I was like, a lot of these characters that I recognized. And then this guy says, hey, come over here. And it was Dave Bryan and Tico Torres. Again, just
Yes.
like over, like just kind of so excited to see them. So we go to sit and have a chat. And the first thing I tell Dave Bryan is like how excited I am to meet him and how he is my musical hero because in my high school talent show, we
Oh.
did Bon Jovi. And I played the part of Dave Bryan because I was a piano player. I classically trained piano player just like he was. So I thought he was the coolest person in the world. And my mom made me a costume that was
Oh, I
his
remember
Dave
this.
Bryan's exact costume from Lay Your Hands on Me. And it was like this
Uh-huh.
almost like leather
Uh-huh.
Mozarty looking thing with
Yep,
gold
yep,
trim on it.
yep,
And
yep. And then the buttons were right here
the
down the front.
buttons, it
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
whole, so she had, and I couldn't do the curls, but I did big hair and I colored it. We had the best time at this, like, because we were all Bon Jovi
Mm-hmm.
fans and we did our little lip syncing to Bon. It was a lip sync contest.
Yeah.
So I was telling him, and they were like laughing, like I was just getting him rolling about describing the costume and trying to like talk about it
That's
and
so
like
awesome.
how lay your hands on me was so cool. And so we ended up for
Uh-huh.
the evening, sitting and talking the entire time to Dave Bryan and Tico Torres.
So cool. Okay.
And
And how did the conversation go? Do you remember much of it?
I remember, well, actually, one of the first things I said to Dave
Hmm.
Bryan and Tico was like, I'm trying to leave for Russia. I'm going to be a student there. I haven't met anyone that's been to Russia, but you guys have been there. Tell me about it. So actually,
Okay,
that was like,
hold on, hold on. I have to tell people something as you go into that. This is something about Katya that you need to know. She can start a conversation with anyone. It's like, in terms of finding something in common, she'll ask the questions until she gets to something that she's familiar with and can really just stay engaged. And so this was absolutely brilliant. Like, this is a way to, I have some questions for you. And I mean, brilliant. You are brilliant.
I was
Okay,
just,
okay, sorry. I
but
just
it was,
had to say it.
but Amy, it was truly a question I had. I hadn't
Yeah,
met
yeah.
anyone who'd been to Russia. And I was like, you guys did that amazing concert. You've been to Russia. Like, what was, and now, like in hindsight, now I laugh because a teenager going to Russia with like $500 in her pocket, which was all the money I had earned, versus the world's biggest rock stars going on private jets and having everything
Yeah.
catered and done for
Quite
them,
a bit different.
might have been two different experiences. Playing to the biggest crowd ever of 100,000 people versus trying to figure out the subway system in Leningrad was kind of different experiences. But in my mind, it was kind of the same
Same
because we were
place.
all going to go see what the Soviet Union used to be. So I go through this whole thing, and they were asking me questions on like, what in the world are you doing? Um, so we have this whole talk of Russia. And I think during this time, I was kind of obvious. I think that I was longingly looking at Richie Sambora and
Mm.
just kind of kept glancing over at him. And it was obvious I was kind of probably giddy over him and did not have a like stone face. Like my emotions are probably quite obvious. And and then I said something like, wow, I just didn't dress the part to be here. Oh my God, look at what I'm wearing. Um, I kind of made it feel like I really was like kind of a fish out of water at this
Hmm.
backstage event of premier rock stars when, even though we were well versed in the Bay Area rock scene, this was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a
yeah.
level I couldn't comprehend.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Dave pulls me aside and like starts talking to me. And I don't have the exact words, but it is something that has truly stuck with me my entire life. And okay, little side note with this too. Dave Bryan currently has a podcast with his daughter Gabby that's Let Me Ask My Dad. And he's
Love it.
giving advice and talking. And I am just thinking, I originated that. I was like,
You're like, yeah.
Dave Bryan's advice was like truly the advice that shaped me for my life and like has been
Oh,
so influential to me and has meant so much to me. And this is like 30 years ago. So this is
yeah.
like Dave Bryan
91.
giving advice. He was meant to do this podcast. I mean, we didn't have
Yeah.
podcasts back then, but Dave Bryan was meant to do this. So my
This is,
rock
I think,
god,
even before Gabby was born. How old is
this
she?
is, she is about 30. So
Yeah,
this is like before Gabby's
yeah.
born. This is, I mean, Amy, if you think about it, these guys seemed so wise to me and old, and they were 30. Right? These guys were they were in their early 30s. Yeah, just
Yeah.
babies, like at this point. And he gives me a pep talk about how, of all the women that were in this room, the women that are dressed in their high heels, in their stilettos, and throwing themselves and trying to be something they might not be, he goes, you're the one I want to talk to because you're you. And, what makes you beautiful is everything about you. And, don't give up on your dreams with like school and work and like loving music. And he's like, look how you are. You aren't meant to
Oh,
look like that. It was this amazing moment of self esteem that he gave me that truly, I just felt everything about me lift up to a different level of like, Dave Bryan thinks I'm
oh.
cool and believes in me. And it was the most like I get teary about it because it was
Yeah,
truly
I'm
like
about to cry.
so many times in life when it was like, whatever, it's bad relationships or
Mhm.
things aren't going well. I was like, Dave Bryan believes in me. And it was amazing.
Oh.
And Tico Torres was also like, so I had these two guys sitting with me, telling me stories, laughing, giving advice, like really talking to us because I just kind of felt like I was there and like, oh, and they were the two most amazing people. And so after that night, I
Genuine.
had
Oh my
walked in
gosh.
the biggest Richie Sambora fan. And afterward, I was all about Dave Bryan.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
like
How impactful is that?
it was for a teenage girl. And you think
Hmm.
about like not only
Young
was
woman.
their music um like truly, and we talk the soundtrack of our lives, like their songs like back then between
Mm-hmm.
the ages of like what 15 and 20, like music was
Hmm.
absolutely everything to us. So their music meant so much to me. What they were doing meant so much to me. Whatever charity they were working with, whatever, like going to the Soviet Union, all of that was impactful. And then to have him just talk so heartfelt to me was one of my life's great experiences.
That's so amazing. I love this story for you so much. And I do have to say that I think that, knowing you beforehand, there was before all this happened, there was a bit of I don't know, you've always been courageous. I always thought, but this brought you to a new level of confidence,
A new level
which
of
was
confidence.
noticeable like immediately. Immediately. So, that was after the show? Like that
That was
conversation and
after the
all of that?
show in San Francisco.
Okay.
Yes.
About how long were you back there, do you think?
It felt like a long time. It was a late night. Like
Yeah.
the party
Yeah.
stayed backstage at the Warfield.
Wow.
So it was a
Wow.
while backstage. And again, I think
Okay.
time escaped me at the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like I
I'm
think
sure.
I had no sense of what was happening. It was like the most amazing experience. I just kept thinking, I was like, I'm 20. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And
I
to
felt
speak
like I
such
peaked.
positive words. Yeah.
No, and
Not yet,
this
babe.
was, but and you have to think about like, and I have to give it to these guys too, of like, here's some goofball fans coming backstage,
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
didn't have to talk to us. They could have ignored us. They could
No.
have like schmoozed with like whoever, I don't forgot who else was backstage. But no, they took the time to like totally build us up backstage. And
They
I
could have
was
they could have done something opposite also and taken advantage of your insecurities, and they didn't.
not these
So
guys, not a
that's
chance.
amazing. Because we've met people who would absolutely,
Yes, we
you
have.
showed some vulnerability, and instead of, scooping that up and taking advantage of that, Dave chose especially to build you up in that moment. And that says something about who he is just as a
Absolutely.
person and at his core. That's incredible. Did you, while you were backstage, like in between that conversation or before or after that conversation, did you actually end up like meeting Richie at that point
I did.
backstage at all, or was that just before the show?
Nope. So we also met him eventually because we were there a while. So I think at some point, Dave and Tico called Richie over to come say hi
Aww.
to the girls. So it was
Aww.
super sweet. And Richie was fine. He was sweet. He was such a like it was his show. He was headlining. He was like being the
Yeah.
super uber rock star at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I think after like they invited us to like another radio interview that they were doing the next day too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all really, I mean, they were all just like amazing to us. And like, I really couldn't believe what was happening to us at the time. And,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're doing another interview tomorrow. And I was like, what? Name it, name the place. I'll be there. So we showed up at
It was a
the next
it
interview.
was a morning interview if I remember correctly.
Yes, it
right?
was. Yes,
Okay. Okay. So it's a this, and it was the middle of the week. So the next
it
show
was.
you're up late, but of course you have this invitation to the radio show. So that probably KSJO, you think?
See, it might have been because KSJO was the day before, so I don't think it was KSJO for the radio interview. But it might
Okay.
have been
Okay.
because KSJO was like the
Yeah.
end all be all of rock stations in the Bay Area at the time.
Yeah. It really was. Okay, so the next morning you go and you're at the radio interview. How many people are there?
Three or four people.
Oh,
It
hi.
was it was like Richie had a limo to go to and from there. And Dave and
Okay.
Tico weren't there. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. I was actually expecting Dave and Tico to be there. And
Okay.
it was
So
like a
again, it's
radio
you and Jen,
interview. I
right?
have, yep, just us two there, like with whoever his PR people are. Um, I think I actually got to go in. I snapped a few pics of him doing the interview, doing the
I've
radio.
seen
We got
those.
pictures with him
Mhm.
before and after. Yeah, it was just a really cute moment and experience with Richie too. It
Yeah.
was, it was, everything was, yeah, I couldn't believe it was happening to us, and it was wonderful. Yeah, so the radio interview was fun. Yeah. So it was my super amazing Bon Jovi experience at the
Mhm.
age of like 19, 20.
Yeah.
And like I
Amazing.
said, it was there. Well, we'll talk about adventure part two, but after that, I left for Russia and was out of communication with the world for like the next year because there were
Uh,
no telephones, computers,
mhm.
internet to get a hold of. And I went to the great
Right.
unknown
You did.
I took my Bon Jovi music with me. I took my pictures with Bon Jovi with me, and I was
Aww.
on cloud nine and super confident when I walked, yeah, going through there.
That's so amazing. Okay, so this is a little side note because all of this kind of ties in and plays in. So we're going to give people who watch our show regularly a little bit of a timeline. Okay. So it's something like 89, you and I meet at Warrant. We have a
Yes.
couple of other adventures. We escaped to Hollywood like sometime in 1990. How old was I? Was 16. I remember that. I don't remember what year it was. So whenever that was. And then we have a couple other, we go to shows. We have this is after Warrant Trickster and Firehouse at Great America Blood, Sweat and Beers tour. So we have
Yes.
this under our belt. I've met the person that you went with. She had that adventure with us. And then so this is before obviously Def Leppard in our timeline.
It's before
And
Def Leppard.
you Yeah, and so you meet, and I'll go back to the story in a second. And then while you're at Russia, here's where it ties in a little bit to the Def Leppard story. While we're in Russia, you meet Simon. And
I
so
do.
Simon is a part of our Def Leppard
Def
story.
Leppard
So they
story.
all are intermingled and tied together. And it truly is like this weird, it's all who you know and where you are and the right
It's
place at the
luck.
right time. And
Well, and Amy, this is after my living in London, where I had all my Def
mm,
Leppard, not Def Leppard, oh my God, Depeche Mode and The Cure stories, which
yeah,
also tied
yep,
into
which we
Simon
will
because
get to.
Simon was part of Depeche Mode. So it was this
Oh, that's right.
amazing confluence of bands I loved from Depeche Mode to Bon Jovi to Def Leppard. It was a crazy meant
Yeah.
to be moment. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
so I, I'm in awe of how special that is to have somebody like Dave Bryan say those things.
here
I'm just stuck on it.
I'm gonna
He didn't have
I'm
to
gonna
say
hold up
those
my little
things.
picture of Dave Bryan and I that I have kept
I
with
love,
me
yep, and there's your polka
through the
dotted,
decades.
there's your
And
polka
my
dotted.
polka, that's how I know what I'm wearing. My crazy polka dot shirt, because I was crazy about, yeah,
Yeah.
I kept those photos with me forever.
And I feel like that played into a little bit of our experience in Seattle and LA because you had like you were you and you never again, I don't feel like you ever played a part in terms of when we were meeting bands, and we never wore the little black dress and all of that stuff, but you backstage at Def Leppard, one of the things that I noted was your confidence. Like, you were just, we're here. We're here, and this is where we're supposed to be,
This is
regardless of
where
the
we.
fact that we don't look like that. We're not dressed like that. And I took that from you. So it went from Dave, and then I took it from you. So there's been this myriad of effects on that. So,
No, what do
okay,
you call it? Like
we're going to
pass it
leave it.
on? Pass it on? What do you
Yeah,
pass it? Play
yeah.
it forward. Play it forward, Dave Bryan.
Pay it forward.
Pay it
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
Dave Bryan.
Pay it forward. Yeah. And so before we close like today's episode, one of the things that I want to tease out a little bit of the beginning of part 2. So you go to this radio show, and after school, like for me, okay, you go to this radio show, and then what happens? What happens at the radio show? You get an invitation. Tell me about this.
To go to another show. And
Where?
I am Los Angeles, Hollywood, baby.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And
Okay, and
what is
so
what is the first thing I think of, Amy, when I get this invite?
where's Amy?
I was like, Amy has to come with me.
Yeah. So, okay, so you go from KSJO, and again, no cell phones. I'm at school, it's the middle of the week. It's probably, I think KSJO, I think the show was a Tuesday,
I
and I
think so.
think KSJO was a Wednesday, and I actually think that they were playing at UCLA on Thursday, the very
No, that's right.
next night.
Day. Yes.
So you get to my house
I
after
drive.
after 3 o'clock. Yeah, after 3 o'clock. Okay, and well, I think it might have even been later than that, because my mom. I remember my mom being home, and that's where we're gonna stop. We're not gonna tell any more, because we'll replay that part. We'll re-talk about this when we film part 2, and all of that.
I
So
get in the car and
make
I
sure that.
drive to Amy.
Yep, yep, and which I'm so grateful for, because you guys, I mean, part 1 is truly incredible. It's a really, like, I want to say, I don't want you to not watch part 2, but it's like the best part of Katya's experience with Dave Bryan is like incredible, life
Yeah,
changing,
all
life
my little heart.
changing.
It was life changing. It was life changing.
Yeah. So part 2 is a lot of fun, but maybe not necessarily life changing.
I might disagree on that. I think the whole thing was just life changing.
Yeah, I mean, the story as a whole is just, but yeah, so make sure that you come back next week, and that you join us for part 2. I can't wait to share it with you, and the adventure and the chit chat back and forth between the two of us, and the things that we
Can't
remember.
wait.
You'll notice that we've posted pictures, because when Katya and I got together in October, we found them all. So I'm trying to
Amazing.
talk uh Clay, my husband is Wild Society Productions, into vamping up or revamping our intro. So
Ooh.
we'll see if
Ooh.
we can get some updated
Okay,
pictures
Clay.
into that,
Okay.
since we found them all. So, oh, and since we're doing that, if you love our intro, that is a song by Wild Society, and you can stream it anywhere and everywhere. Just search Rock the Life by Wild Society, and it will come up for
Love
you.
it.
If you have any questions, any comments, please leave them below. We'll be happy to answer them for you. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and that way you get the notification for next week. Anything else? Follow us on our socials, merch. We'll leave all of that in the description below. But oh my gosh, this is absolutely like 100% the whole thing behind Rock the Life. Like, this
Perfect.
advice, this whole experience, like, I'm just tickled for you. I love that you had this. This was so
Me too.
amazing.
Me too.
Like, I'll
Well, I
forever
can't
love Dave Bryan.
forever.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alrighty,
babe.
babes. Don't
Can't
forget.
wait till next week.
I know. And you get to do it this time. I did the intro, so you get to do the thing.
Okay. Don't forget,
Rock the life.
rock the life. Love
I love it.
ya.
Total role reversal. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.